Belmont Park Racecourse is a wondrous place. A place for fairy tales. For storybook endings. The type of story Tabasco Cat would write, full of hope and redemption. Wins in the final two legs of the Triple Crown put him in contention for Horse of the Year.
Tabasco Cat on the outside grabs the lead, and down the stretch they come. Tabasco Cat digging in.
Through all of his triumphs, this horse, the star of the spring racing season, tore at the heart of the Wayne Lukas family. For last December, he ran over and nearly killed Wayne's son. Wayne and his son Jeff were partners in the glory years of the 80s. Now alone, Wayne Lukas has put his hope and his faith in this horse, Tabasco Cat, the Redeemer. Like a heavyweight fighter, he seeks a shot at the title, but must chase a ghost. Holy Bull, the horse that has won the hearts of the public, is finished for the year, confident his record will earn him a championship. And so Tabasco Cat has come to Belmont Park to give the Lukas family a storybook ending. The wide expanse of Belmont Park, designed on the scale of the great race courses of Europe and a center of American racing since 1905. And if Tabasco Cat hopes to create poetry today, he should be inspired by the weather. A beautiful Long Island afternoon for the Breeders' Cup preview. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Belmont Park. I'm Tom Hammond, looking forward to a great afternoon of racing, the second richest day in American racing, exceeded only by Breeders' Cup Day itself. 6 stakes races, important events in their own right, but also serving as a preview for America's Championship Day at the races, Breeders' Cup Day itself coming up 4 weeks from today at Churchill Downs. Now, already today we have seen the Beldame Stakes run as a betless exhibition because only 4 fillies turned out for the race, and Heavenly Prize was an impressive winner of that. Over the next hour and a half, we'll be bringing you live coverage of 3 races, starting with the $500,000 Turf Classic. That race features Fraze, who was winner of the 1992 Breeders' Cup Turf. The Moet Champagne Stakes for 2-year-olds, East versus West. Montreal Red, Best in the East versus the California Invaders, On Target and Timber Country. Then the historic Jockey Club Gold Cup, 3-year-olds Tabasco Cat and Gopher Gin against the best older horse on dirt, Devil His Due. We'll also see 2 additional races on tape as Lure carries 128 pounds in the Kelso Handicap, the race he has used as a springboard to win the last 2 Breeders' Cup mile races. We'll also see the brilliant filly Flanders in the Frizette. Well, thinking of Belmont Park, and last year at this time we saw one of the great training feats in history. It's said that a man's fate lies in the heavens, and at last year's Breeders' Cup preview, Shug McGahee's fate was to be a winner. It began with Lure, and by the end of the day, Shug had 5 stakes wins.
Miners Park digging down. Colonial Affair coming fast. Here's the line. Colonial Affair and Miners Park in a photo. It was very, very tight.
Miners Mark prevailed by a nose, and Shug McGahee made history.
I don't think that I ever really realized I'd made history or something. I knew something had happened that was different. And after Miners Mark won, you know, I mean, I had tears in my eyes. You know, I knew that this was something that was remarkable. I was really kind of wondering why did it happen to me, but I was satisfied that it was me.
Today, Shug saddles only 2 horses, but one is the grass superstar Lure, who could put him right back in the spotlight again. And there is Shug McGahee a short time ago in the paddock, getting ready to put jockey Mike Smith aboard Lure. Already Shug has trained the winner of the Beldame Heavenly Prize. And a sigh as he sends Lure to the racetrack as the 1-5 favorite. He's carrying 128 pounds in his first race since August 12th and must concede from 11 to 22 pounds to the field. But as you see, the bettors think that is no problem. Lure going a mile on the grass. Tom Durkin has the call.
And they're off. Gito comes out running with Dominant Prospect. Lure was away cleanly and settles in third. Then it's A in Sociology and a break of 3 lengths back to Nijinsky's Gold, who's down on the inside, saving ground in the early going. Virginia Rapids is reserved at the back of the pack, and Lost Soldier will be the early trailer. Long shot Gito sprinting away from them down the back stretch by 4. Dominant Prospect is second. The opening quarter went at a sharp 23 seconds flat. Lure is reserved about 8 lengths from the lead, and Gito is really out there winging now. Farther back in the field, A in Sociology is 2 lengths behind Lure. Then it's another 5 to Lost Soldier, Nijinsky's Gold. Virginia Rapids is the trailer. They're at the halfway point now, and it's still Gito. And he drills a half mile in 45 and 3/5 seconds. Dominant Prospect pursuing the fast pace. Lure is 4 lengths behind, but now he's beginning to roll. 3 furlongs from the line. A in Sociology is running in 4th. Nijinsky's Gold beginning to hit his best stride. And Virginia Rapids from the back of the pack. Coming to the quarter pole. Gito is done. The new leader is Dominant Prospect, but Lure is right there at his neck. And Lure cut loose in the stretch, and here he comes to the 8th pole, taking the lead. It is Lure in front, still under a hand ride. Nijinsky's Gold is coming hard on the outside. He will try to test Lure the last 16. Now Smith resorts to the whip. Nijinsky's Gold trying to pull a huge upset here. It will be close. Here's the wire. Oh, it's too close to call. Too close to call. Did Nijinsky's Gold get his nose on the wire first, or was it Lure? This is a photo finish. A photo finish indeed. Lure apparently is home free, but here comes Nijinsky's Gold on the outside with Jose Santos driving him. And Nijinsky's Gold, who remember is getting 14 pounds from Lure, sees the whip, feels it from Santos, and suddenly with a late spurt comes right alongside Lure. Lure perhaps caught a little bit unawares of the on-charging Nijinsky's Gold, but once he sees him on the outside, Lure also digs in, and these two battle right to the wire. Jose Santos, Nijinsky's Gold, Mike Smith, and Lure, and as they get to the line, it is very, very close. It took a photo finish, of course, to separate those two. But as Shug McGahee, the trainer, watched, he seemed to know that it was not to be for Lure today. His expression indicates that he has finished second. And indeed, Nijinsky's Gold did win it. Shug is with Bob Newmeyer.
Well, upsets are the essence of this sport, and Shug McGahee knows all about the good side and the bad side. At 1-5, Lure beaten by an Austral. Your thoughts on this race?
Well, I thought it was a good race. His turf course probably ended up to his liking. It gave a pretty good horse 14 pounds. That horse has been consistent all year on the grass, and I was worried about him, you know, even before the race. We hadn't run for a long time, and you know, so I think this will be a good race to get him to the next stop.
Mike Smith, to some racing observers, might have fallen asleep on the horse in mid-stretch. Did you think he looked over quickly enough? Did he see that horse come on his tail? Because he looked like he had the thing very confidently ridden.
Well, I couldn't really tell. You know, I was watching him. I did see the other horse kind of spurt out of there, but I was just sort of kind of watching, so I haven't seen the race close enough to where I did. But I doubt Mike fell asleep. He probably knew what was going on.
In terms of the Breeders' Cup, still plans are to march forward and try to become that 3-time winner.
Oh, yeah, if he comes back fine, that's our idea. That's why we ran today, to get him to the next spot.
So Nijinsky's Gold, the winner, and he's no slouch. He set an American record for 7 furlongs on this Belmont course. And remember, Lure was second in the Kelso in 1992 and went on to win his first Breeders' Cup mile. Coming up, the Turf Classic, we'll see Fraze in that one.
Racing fans, the new $1 Pick 7 is here for Breeders' Cup 94. That's right, for only $1, you've got a chance to win millions. Just go to your simulcast outlet on November 5th and pick the winners of the 7 Breeders' Cup Championship races. The more you play the $1 Pick 7, the more chances you have to win. Play the new $1 Breeders' Cup Pick 7. It's the best bet in racing.
This is NBC. NBC's Sports World. And today it's brought to you by Buick and your local Buick dealers. Remember Buick, the new symbol for quality in America. By Consort Hairspray, a fine mist that won't weigh hair down. By Moet Champagne, where celebration is born. And by Old Spice Sensitive. It's alcohol-free to take the heat out of aftershave.
One of America's most majestic racetracks, Belmont Park. Here are the odds for the mile-and-a-half Turf Classic Invitational. KRIS Clown, Speed Horse 6-1. Venda, 3-year-old filly from France, 4-1. Alex the Great at 7-2. Royal Mountain Inn would have been the favorite, but was scratched after coming up lame. Tikkanen, named for the hockey player. The horse is not on strike. He's 9-1. Phrase is the 9-5 favorite, and the 3-year-old Vaudeville is at 7-2. Greg McCarron is on horseback. He's been watching Phrase, the favorite, warm up. Greg, how'd he look?
Tom, he's really warmed up good, and Chris is kind of relaxed on him. I think he's going to run real big. The only trouble they had was with the number 2 horse loading in the gate, but she's in there now, and things are going real good down here.
All right, in that case, as Phrase approaches the gate, we'll send it up to Tom Durkin for the call of the Turf Classic.
Vaudeville moves into line, ready for the start. And they are off. Vaudeville springs to the lead on the outside, but KRIS Clown, flashing his typical early speed, is out there to take the early lead. It is KRIS Clown out to establish the lead, and Vaudeville will sit off him running in second. Tikkanen is wrangled back now, and moving up on the inside, Yenda, the filly, is now running in third. Tikkanen settles in fourth. Near the back of the pack are Phrase and late running Alex the Great. They continue that long run into the first turn here over the Widener course. And KRIS Clown is moving comfortably on a 2-length lead. He's followed by Vaudeville running second by 2 lengths. Then it's Yenda, who is followed by Tikkanen. Next in line, it's Phrase. And the trailer is Alex the Great. Alex the Great is 10 lengths from front running KRIS Clown. The opening quarter went in 23 4/5 seconds. A solid half mile of 47 4/5 seconds. Honest fractions here by KRIS Clown, who continues to run uncontested on the lead. Vaudeville still tracking intently as they begin their long run down the backstretch. Another 3.5 lengths back to Yenda, who is comfortable running in third position. And then it's Tikkanen fourth toward the inside. Chris McCarron has taken Phrase out for running room now. There's 6 furlongs to go, and Phrase is clear of traffic on the outside. Alex the Great continues to trail the field, but he's drawn in a bit closer now, about 9 lengths from front running KRIS Clown. Mike Luzzy and KRIS Clown committed to the lead. They're trying to go the distance wire to wire. They've run 3/4 and 1/12 flat, and there's no one to come after him yet. KRIS Clown entering the far turn, a half mile from the line, and a 3-length lead. Vaudeville is called on for more run, and Vaudeville to the attack as they round the far turn. Then Yenda and Tikkanen. Farther back, Phrase is laboring a bit, 7 lengths from the lead. Alex the Great is called on for his best. Jose Santos wanting more, but he's not getting it yet from Alex the Great. And Vaudeville has taken the lead as they come into the stretch. It's Vaudeville the leader. Tikkanen coming with his rally on the outside. KRIS Clown is now faltered back to third. Then Yenda. Phrase is well behind. He'll never get to the top runners, and neither will Alex the Great. It's Vaudeville and Tikkanen. Those 2 will slug it out coming down to the finish. Vaudeville digging down deep. Tikkanen a last gap lunge to win. Tikkanen does it, and he wins by a neck from Vaudeville, who was second by 5. Yenda was third. Rather poor performances from the American-based runners here. The Europeans finished 1, 2, 3, and the Americans finished 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tom?
All right, Tom Durkin. I told you Tikkanen wasn't on strike. Asa Tikkanen, his namesake, may be the National Hockey League player who's been on 5 Stanley Cup winners, but not the horse Tikkanen, who comes from Europe. He is French-trained, ridden by Cash Asmussen, the American jockey, who has been leading rider in France. And Vaudeville, the 3-year-old who had won 2 in a row in Chicago, made the lead here. Gary Stevens trying to keep him together, but Tikkanen under left-handed whipping from Cash Asmussen, gaining in the final strides, and here taking the lead as Tikkanen goes on to win the Turf Classic. The Europeans sweep the $500,000 race. And we'll be back to Belmont in a moment. So it is a fine afternoon for the European-based horse and rider. Tikkanen and Cash Asmussen heading to the winner's circle after winning the Turf Classic. And the result is official. Tikkanen paying $21, $10, $20, and $6. He was the last horse to defeat Carnegie, who recently won the prestigious Arc de Triomphe in France. Vaudeville was second, and another European horse, Yenda, the 3-year-old filly, finished third. As you see, the exacta paid $102. So Cash Asmussen, who has a knack for judging pace, has been leading rider in France after serving an apprenticeship in America and was leading apprentice in the country. Rode often here at Belmont Park and still returns occasionally, though he is based in France. In fact, during the off-season of French racing, returns to the United States and operates a training center in his native Texas, and broke on target to saddle one of the horses that'll be running in the Champagne later today. Let's go to Bob Newmeyer.
Cash Asmussen is just weighing in here down at the winner's circle. He'll join us in a moment. Of course, this is a great story. A young man that was brought up deep in the heart of Texas, that made the move to Europe and now is back in his native homeland, winning on Tikkanen. You've ridden this horse earlier this year, and then you were off him a few miles. Tell us the story.
Well, that was tied up a bit in France, and he'd traveled around a bit to Germany and Italy, but I'd like to congratulate Mr. Strawbridge. I said he'd win a Group 1. He made us look good today.
All right, take me through the stretch run. You're chasing that 3-year-old Gary Stevens was on. Were you confident in mid-stretch that Tikkanen could get the job done?
Well, I was following Yenda most of the race. I mean, she finished second in a Group 1 last time out in France. I had a lot of respect for her. Didn't seem to be going too well at the 3/8 pole, and then I said, I'm going to take a chance. Can't come around her. Go to the rails. Gary's got an easy lead when he turns for home. My horse tracked him, and one thing about it, he does stay in America every inch of a mile and a half. Took me a long time to get him. Very, very brave horse on the rail. He just, in the last 20 jumps, pulled it out.
Very brave horse was, of course, the 3-year-old Vaudeville. And now, are we on to the Breeders' Cup, Cash?
I think the options are open at the minute. I don't know what Mr. Strawbridge and Mr. Pease have in mind, but he's the kind of horse who won't let you down.
All right, this is a hat trick for Tikkanen today. Tom Hammond?
In the colors of the Augustin stables, Tikkanen wins the Turf Classic. Well, what does this mean for the upcoming Breeders' Cup Turf, the $1.5 million race a month from today? Let's call in our handicapper, Mike Battaglia. Mike, it's going to be a wide-open race behind the probable favorite, which is Paradise Creek, who has a date next weekend in the International down at Laurel. After that, the Europeans should be very encouraged. What do you think?
I think that if Tikkanen's any indication, that I think you have to consider the Europeans. Although Paradise Creek has been so solid in all of his races this year, if he does win in the DC International, which he will be the prohibitive favorite to do so, he had a good work here 2 days ago, he will be the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Turf Classic. But I think you really have to take a strong look at the Europeans. We saw Lure get beat earlier. I think that even with the defeat there, Lure also goes into the Breeders' Cup as the favorite in the mile, Tom.
Lure for a moment, Mike, because Lure was second in the Kelso before he won the Breeders' Cup Mile in '92. Considering that he hadn't run since August 12th, only a couple of races almost all summer, that he was conceding 14 pounds to the winner, this may have been the last time they'll see Lure get beat in a while.
We were talking before the race, and both thought that if Lure had a chance of getting beat, it would probably be here, not in the Breeders' Cup, because of that weight factor and the fact that he hadn't been out. I think that the horse will move forward off of this race. I think he'll be the favorite in the Breeders' Cup. We know he likes the Churchill Downs turf course, so I think he's going to take a lot of beating in the mile. I think he could be our first 3-time Breeders' Cup champion.
All right, our grass races are in the books on this Breeders' Cup preview day. Now let's go back to our Manhattan studios. Hannah Storm at our NBC Update studio. Back at Belmont, there's the Cat, Tabasco Cat, getting ready for his turn on the track later in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Of course, he is trained by Wayne Lukas, and Lukas in the paddock now, saddling his 2-year-old colt, Timber Country, who will soon be taking the track for the Moet Champagne Stakes. Earlier today, Lukas sent out the favorite in the Frizette 47th running of that Grade 1 race, $250,000, a mile and a 16th. He saddled the favorite, Flanders, but it's been an eventful couple of weeks since Flanders won the Matron. Bob Newmeyer with that story.
I think you could safely call it just another chapter in an emotional roller coaster for trainer Wayne Lukas. 3 weeks ago at this very racetrack, he unleashed a 2-year-old filly in a long line of great champions, this one called Flanders. She won by a clear 3 lengths in sensational fashion, a scintillating time of 1 minute and 35 seconds for the mile, so fast it was 1.1 seconds faster than even her male counterparts in another division. But after the race, a test found a trace of isoxaprine, which is a substance used to treat the circulation of the feet. According to the rules here in New York, if upheld, Wayne Lukas would be subject to a 60-day suspension. But since that time, samples have been sent to Ohio State. They received, actually they showed no trace of the drug. I talked to Wayne about it today.
Trying to do. I think it's uncharted waters for them too. What has happened here is a very, very highly accredited laboratory has called this a negative, and I think they need to get that result. There has been no charges against me personally, and I think they even put the Flanders disqualification on hold now. They haven't even made that official. They have not distributed that purse either. I don't know where we're at on this thing. We have no explanation for it. We don't know if it's contamination by the groom's hands, if he mixed 2 tubs of feed or whatever the case may be. But I'm sure that through the protocol that they'll develop, that we'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay, was the horse in fact medicated with this substance that came up in the initial findings?
No, in fact, Flanders has never had any medication of any kind. The nearest thing theory that we could, if in fact there is a small trace of it, and we haven't found that in the referee sample, but our first thoughts was that maybe the groom, didn't wash his hands thoroughly when he was mixing both tubs on her feeding program, but she's never had any medication of any kind.
And Flanders as the 1-5 favorite in the Frizette, putting her unbeaten record on the line with only 4 horses going to the post. VALOR Lady was scratched. The distance, 1 mile and a 16th. Flanders the heavy favorite, and Tom Durkin with the Frizette call.
And they're off. Pretty Discreet was left at the gate. She spots the field a half a dozen lengths right from the beginning. Comstock Queen came out running, but Flanders won't let her go. Those two now are eye to eye as they continue to run up the backstretch, and Flanders will be the leader. It's Flanders, the big favorite in front. Comstock Queen now settling in behind her. Then there's a gap of about 5 lengths back to change for $1. And after that flat-footed start, Pretty Discreet is well behind the rest. The opening quarter went in 23 1/5 seconds. And Flanders dictating her own pace here. She's moving easily while clear of Comstock Queen by 3 lengths, another 3. Back to change for $1. Still lagging behind is Pretty Discreet. Flanders unchallenged into the far turn. She's run a half mile uncontested in 46 4/5 seconds. Comstock Queen, and now Chris McCarron coaxing her along, now running in second, and change for $1 is third. Pretty Discreet is making up some ground. But they're 3 furlongs from the line. Pat Day steals a peek back at the competition. He's aboard Flanders with a 3-length lead and still going strong as they move toward the quarter pole. Pretty Discreet swings to the outside now, and she's moved into second, and Comstock Queen has dropped back. The field turning for a home. Pat Day just sitting aboard Flanders, looking around for competition, and there is absolutely none. She is just waltzing past the 8th pole with an insurmountable lead. Look at this. She's in front by 10. She might win by 20 lengths. Wow, she wins by a pole. Flanders by 15, maybe even 20 lengths. For the record, change for $1 finished second, but a colossal margin here by the undefeated Flanders.
Yes, only a 4-horse field, but what a win by Flanders. Still unbeaten, and the probable favorite for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, pending the outcome of Call Now in the Oakleaf Stakes at Santa Anita later today. Flanders very impressive in the Frizette. Meanwhile, back in the country, Lukas sending out another 2-year-old. That's Timber Country, 7-2 in the Moet Champagne Stakes. We'll be back when the horses come on the track for the Champagne after these messages from your local station. Belmont Park on Breeders' Cup Preview Day. Beautiful afternoon on Long Island. Let's check the odds now for the Moet Champagne Stakes, America's oldest stakes race today, the 123rd running. And as we see the odds on target from California, currently third choice at 4-1. Long shots, Flitch is 9-1 in our odds. Favorite is the Hope of the East, Montreal Red, best 2-year-old colt in the East. He is 8-5. He likes this Belmont track. And second choice at 7-2 is another California horse, the Lukas trained Timber Country. So the horses are making their way to the racetrack for the Champagne. The purse is $500,000, grade 1 race for the first time run at a distance of 1 mile and a 16th. That is Montreal Red. Jose Santos already has 3 wins on the day. He's the hot jockey of the afternoon. Pat Day has a couple, both in stakes, the Beldame, and taking the Frizette with Flanders.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
The horses now making their way from the paddock through the tunnel, where the crowd here at Belmont Park will greet them. This is a race that traditionally awards the winning owner a Jeroboam of Champagne. Always a festive scene in the winner's circle. And De Hare, you'll remember, won this race last year in his sensational 2-year-old campaign. And despite losing the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Santa Anita, went on to be named champion 2-year-old of 1993. "22 winners of this race went on to be champion 2-year-olds. And here's the call to the post. A field of 11 going postward in the Champagne Stakes. Number 1 is On Target, who is 2 for 2, ridden by Chris McCarron for the first time. McCarron won the race with De Hare last year. And this colt has a half-brother, C Cadet, that was a grade 1 winner, earned $1,700,000. Islamabad is the 2-horse, a long shot. First 2 races were on grass. He's a 50-1 chance at the moment. The 3-horse is Mr. Greeley. Do you like that name? His sire is Gone West, who took Horace Greeley's advice. This is his first stake start. The Zito and Crone team on Mr. Greeley. Four horses, Slick Twist has only a maiden win, and that was for a claiming tag in his 3 lifetime starts. Has been a late rider change on Slick Twist is jockey John Velasquez. Number 5 is Sierra Diablo. Montreal Red beat him in the Futurity. Jockey Jerry Bailey is up, though. Bailey rode Sea Hero to win the Champagne in '92 and the Kentucky Derby the next year. The 6-horse is Flitch, who comes off an allowance win here at Belmont with Mike Smith. His half-brother, Prince Prairie Bayou. Prairie Bayou, remember, champion 3-year-old a year ago. 7 horses, Diplomatic Jet, in the colors of 90-year-old Fred Hooper, who won the Kentucky Derby with his first horse, Hoop Jr., in 1945. This horse had a huge win in the Pilgrim Stakes by 12 lengths on the grass. 8 horses, Wild Escapade, who upset Montreal Red to win the Hopeful Stakes at Saratoga at 32-1. Number 9 is Reality Road. Reality Road is a 30-1 shot who makes his stakes debut here. Jockey Eddie Maple won the Champagne a couple of times during the decade of the 80s. The 10-horse is the Lukas horse, Timber Country. Lukas had been raving about this $500,000 Keeneland yearling purchase. He was 3rd to On Target in the Del Mar Futurity. And completing the field, number 11 is the 8-5 favorite Montreal Red. He has won 4 of 5, including the Sanford, the Saratoga Special, and the Belmont Futurity over this strip. So that's the field of 11 for the Moet Champagne Stakes. Let's go to our handicappers, Bob Newmeyer and Mike Battaglia. What do you think, guys?
Well, Michael, time to put on our thinking caps and hope that Tom doesn't put on our dunce caps before the day is over. But I think the essence of the Breeders' Cup is the East versus West rivalry. Perfect case in point, today's race.
It really is. You got Montreal Red, who's been so impressive here on the East Coast and comes off a big win in the Belmont Futurity. Hard to knock the horse. He's 2 for 2 here at Belmont Park. Then you got the 2 shippers. We got Lukas and McAnally shipping in the 1-3 finishers from the Del Mar Futurity, On Target and Timber Country. Tough to pick between these 3 Pat Day told me in the jocks room this morning that Timber Country just really is training excellently at Churchill Downs. I'm going to go for On Target. He's lightly raced. I think that the horse will improve. He's going to move up. Tom mentioned he's a half-brother to Sea Cadet, the tailless horse, won almost $2 million. I think McCarron will fit with this horse. I love the way he rides, and a slight pick. On Target for me.
Well, it's scary because we agree, and we rarely do, but On Target is my choice as well. It's interesting at Del Mar that this horse came off the pace to win behind a very hot early fraction situation, almost identical to what Montreal Red here did on Super Saturday 3 weeks ago. And there is the white cap and the maroon and the explosion in the stretch by this fine 2-year-old by 49er, who's such a fine sire. And he goes on to win, but Timber Country breathing fire, finishing third. Not much to choose between these two today. There figures to be a hot pace again today, Mike Battaglia.
Yes,
so we like the come from behind horse On Target. Tom Hammond?
Wow, unanimous pick from the handicappers. Frick and Frack. On Target. Well, one of the long shots in the race is Mr. Greeley, ridden by Julie Crone in her continuing comeback from serious injury. For more, let's go to Marianne Grabavoy.
Well, thank you, Tom. Yeah, she is a long shot on Mr. Greeley in this race, but perhaps her best shot at a trip to the winner's circle today would have been in the last race, the Turf Classic. Julie was scheduled to ride the favorite going in the race, Royal Mountain Inn. He had to scratch because of ankle problems. And unfortunately for Julie, that could have been her moment in the sun. She's a hometown girl. It would have been a big race for her today. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Ever since she was a little girl, Julie Crone wanted to be one thing in life, a jockey. Feel the wind in her face, the speed beneath her legs, the sweetness of victory. But the day of her historic 93 Belmont Stakes win, the glorious moment she had waited for would be tinged with sadness.
Colonial Affair winning it by 2 lengths.
Prairie Bayou, the odds-on favorite that day, sustained a fatal injury. And so it's been for Julie Crone, light and darkness, sunshine and shadows. At Saratoga in 1993, Julie rode 5 winners in one day, a feat accomplished by only 2 other jockeys ever. This Spitfire had spent years convincing owners and trainers that she was the real thing, the one they wanted in the irons. Just 30 days after her Belmont victory, Julie took the spill of her life, shattering her right ankle, a seriously bruised heart, but not her spirit. And you wonder about Julie Crone after all that has happened to her, from dreaming about being the best jock in the world to hobbling around the track, riding horses sunrise to sunset. Is it only a love of horses that keeps her riding?
I realized that I'll do almost anything to ride and win races. I can't even walk when I finish at night, and I walk to my car, but I'll ride as many races as I possibly can.
Is it her passion for riding, or is it something else like a shadow of invincibility?
It's almost like someone takes part of your life away from you. It was kind of like you go along and you're riding, and that always happens to everybody else. And then it happens to you, and suddenly you're an example.
She'll always carry the mantle best female jock, and there'll always be the same questions, and everyone will always be curious about Julie Crone. Over and over again, she'll tell her story. And so Julie Crone retreats back alone into the world she loves, the world of horses.
Julie Crone riding Mr. Greeley and hoping to taste the champagne today. Loading in the gate for the Moet Champagne Stakes, 2-year-olds at 1 1/16 miles. On Target now is the second choice at 5-2. The favorite remains Montreal Red, 9-5, with Timber Country at 7-2. And Mr. Greeley and Julie Crone currently at 26-1. America's oldest 2-year-old stake. 123rd renewal of the Moet Champagne Stakes. Let's go to Tom Durkin for the call of the race.
Promising Timber Country moves in. He's the biggest horse in the starting gate, a real monster for a 2-year-old. 16 hands, 3. Our final horse, Montreal Red, the best of the East, is in the gate. And Gate, ready to start. They're off. And Timber Country bobbled a bit, leaving the starting gate. And there goes Reality Road, who came out smoothly in stride to get to the early lead. Slick Twist is there in between horses, along with Wild Escapade. Timber Country is recovering and coming on through. Mr. Greeley is also up close to the lead. So is On Target, and there's a real scramble for the lead here as they continue their run up the backstretch. Timber Country comes on through and breaks through to get ahead in front. Wild Escapade is right there with them. On the outside, Reality Road. For the inside, Mr. Greeley is running in fourth. Slick Twist is fifth in between horses. Sierra Diablo in and among horses running in sixth. And Montreal Red, 5 wide down the backstretch, is seventh, but he's only 3 lengths from the lead. Then Diplomatic Jet. On Target is settled about 5 lengths from the front now. And then there's a big break back to the 2 trailers, Islamabad and Flitch. The quarter in 23 and 2. They run a half mile in 46 and 1/5 seconds, and they're rounding the far turn. And it's Timber Country with the lead, but challenges from the inside from Mr. Greeley and Wild Escapade. And Reality Road is right there on the outside. Montreal Red now is asked for run, and there he goes on the outside. He'll have to come wide as they come into the stretch. Sierra Diablo is there. On Target, the undefeated California, is in behind a wall of horses. He has nowhere to go at the top of the stretch. Off the turn and into the stretch now. Reality Road is now dueling with Timber Country to their outside Montreal Red, who had to swerve. And Sierra Diablo is there. On Target is running room, but he's 5 lengths behind inside the 8th pole. Timber Country is in a full out drive, and he has a stubborn rival in Sierra Diablo. Those two coming down to the line, and Timber Country prevails. He wins by a hard-fought neck. Sierra Diablo was second, and finishing third, 5 lengths farther back, was On Target. Big day here for Wayne Lukas. He wins with 2-year-old Timber Country.
Well, Wayne Lukas is back. Was there any doubt? He has the outstanding 2-year-old filly Flanders, and now you'd have to call this the best 2-year-old race of the year thus far. And he has the winner in Timber Country, who had an eventful race, you can say that for sure. Broke poorly, was asked to run in the turn for home, and then in an all-out drive through the stretch. And this son of Woodman, the $500,000 yearling purchase, certainly showed his courage as he dueled with Sierra Diablo down through the lane. And under the urging of Pat Day, who records his 3rd win of the afternoon, Timber Country stamps himself as the favorite for the 2-year-old juvenile at Churchill Downs a month from today. Greg McCarron, you were out there, you saw them load, you saw the break from your perch on your lead pony. Give us a comment on the race.
Well, I got Pat Day with me. Pat, it looks like he stumbled a little bit leaving the gate.
Yeah, he did, and I picked him up and slapped him on the shoulder, and I shouldn't have done that. When I picked him up, slapped him on the shoulder, he jumped right into the bridle, and, you know, an 1/8 mile out of there, he's dragging me to the lead. Showed a lot of intestinal fortitude. He was getting a little late down in the lane, and he hung in there and fought hard. You know, I was real pleased with his performance, a little disappointed that instinctively I picked him up and slapped him on the shoulder leaving there because he got him too much into the race, and consequently it didn't develop the way we wanted it to.
Well, that's the kind of...
The outcome was fine, but, you know, to buy the race, we didn't want to be on the lead.
Yeah, and it sounds to me like you had a little more difficult time this time than with Flanders. Now back to you, Tom.
All right, Greg McCarron. So Timber Country with an excellent race coming out of the gate slowly. He was in post position number 10, which is the next to outside gate, second from the left. Came away poorly with that traditional white Lukas bridle, but was in front at the end. The result of the Moet Champagne Stakes is official, and Wayne Lukas pops the cork on the bubbly for the first time, his first Champagne win. Timber Country, in the colors of Gainesway Stable, W.T. Young, R.B. Lewis, and B. Lewis, wins the Champagne. And Wayne Lukas in the winner's circle. He's always had a lot of success with 2-year-olds, and he sweeps today's 2-year-old races, Flanders in the Frizette and Timber Country in the Champagne. Let's go to Bob Newmeyer.
Well, those of you who watched the Breeders' Cup Classic last year here on NBC saw Jerry Bailey shock the world with that long shot Arcong, a horse he had never been on before. And here you are today on Sierra Diablo, another horse you had never been on before. What gives?
I do pretty well on those kind of horses. Maybe they look for me for those.
Tell us about this race today. You obviously were dogging Pat Day and Timber Country all the way around the racetrack. Never could get by him.
I was directly behind him the entire way. My horse was rating very well. Turning for home, I slipped to the inside. And it looked like I might be able to run him down, but his horse just never gave up.
I know Mark Hennig, the trainer of this horse, was once worked for Wayne Lukas, so it's an interesting little quinella, the teacher and the pupil.
That was quite interesting coming down the stretch. My horse never quit. The other horse just was a little bit better today.
Hope to ride him again back in the Breeders' Cup at Churchill?
That'd be a lot of fun.
All right, Jerry Bailey, a happy second on Sierra Diablo. Let's go back to Tom Hammond.
All right, so Timber Country over Sierra Diablo in the Champagne with On Target, who had some trouble during the race, finishing third. Time of the race 1:44 and change. Interesting to note that the Lukas 2-year-olds both winning, and the filly Flanders ran just a fraction of a second, 5/100ths or so of a second faster than did the colts in the Champagne. So interesting sweep of the 2-year-old races for D. Wayne Lukas, with the Jockey Club Gold Cup and Tabasco Cat yet to come. This could be almost as big a day today for Lukas as it was for Shug McGahee last year. Now for the presentation of the trophy for the Moet Champagne Stakes, let's go to Marianne Grabavoy.
Thanks, Tom. It's time to break out the bubbly, and it seems fitting that one of the oldest and most prestigious champagne houses, Moet, sponsors this race, America's oldest stakes race for 2-year-olds. On my right, the winner, Mr. Bill Young, and his family, and the trainer, Mr. Wayne Lukas, and on my left, Count Frederick Chandon from the House of Moet in Chandon, and the Vice President of Moet Champagne, Monsieur Bernard Peyron, here to make the presentation. Please do so.
Thank you. On behalf of Count Chandon and myself, Moet Champagne is proud to sponsor the 123rd running of the Champagne Stakes.
Thank you.
And to be a part of the Breeders' Cup Preview Day. Congratulations to all the horses and to Timber Country for such a great race.
Well, I accept with honor from our partners Bob Lewis and Graham Beck, who is in South Africa. They should have been here.
Mr. Young, 2 for 2 today. A great race by this horse.
Just very, very lucky. Thank you so much.
And you've got one more to come, the Jockey Gold Cup?
Right now. That's right.
Tabasco Cat.
Tabasco Cat. That's right.
And congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Tom, back to you.
All right, Marianne. So W.T. Young looking forward to seeing his Tabasco Cat in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, as are we. The big race, $750,000 still to come on Belmont Park Breeders' Cup Preview Day. Welcome back to Belmont Park, where we check the odds for the $750,000 Jockey Club Gold Cup over 1.25 miles. Flag down a 7-to-1 shot. Pistols and Roses expected to be pretty close to the pace today, 25-to-1. The 3-year-old Kentucky Derby winner Go for Gin is 4-to-1. Colonial Affair, who likes this Belmont strip, 9-to-2. Jackson Port, a real long shot, 85-to-1. Tabasco Cat is at 3-to-1. He's currently the second choice in the betting. The favorite is the older horse, Devil His Due, regarded as the best horse on dirt in the older handicap ranks in America currently. West by West was a late scratch, and KISSIN at 7-to-1. He was third in last year's Breeders' Cup Classic. And Nick Zito, the trainer of Go for Gin, in the paddock, awaiting the arrival of his colt, who hasn't won since that first Saturday in May, since he took the Roses, but always runs a pretty good race, and he's expected to be right on the front today, Go for Gin. There's the other 3-year-old, his chief rival in this one, Tabasco Cat, who, after being beaten by Go for Gin in the Kentucky Derby, went on to win the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes. And Tabasco Cat feeling his oats in the paddock, currently a 3-to-1 shot. Of course, both Go for Gin and Tabasco Cat are chasing another 3-year-old, Holy Bull, who is retired for the year now. Holy Bull, after finishing 12th in the Kentucky Derby, decided not to run in the Preakness and Belmont, but has come back strong. He's beaten older horses twice, beat Tabasco Cat convincingly in the Travers, but right now he is on vacation, and the perfect place for a vacation is Kentucky. We visited earlier this week during the week at the Keeneland Racecourse, where he is currently stabled in his R&R mode. There's Tabasco Cat enjoying his time away from the races. But some controversy. We talked with Jimmy Kroll about not running in the Breeders' Cup. These days, everybody has a theory on why you've chosen not to supplement your colt and run him in the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's time to get the straight word. Why have you chosen not to run him?
Well, the whole reason was the time element. He has been racing for over 13 months, and if I went to the Breeders' Cup, it was another 40 days, and that would have not allowed me to run him in Florida or early spring. And we thought it over, and we decided it was more important to have him as a 4-year-old next year than to run in the Breeders' Cup this year.
If he were eligible, if you didn't have to put up the supplementary fee, would you run him then?
Personally, it wouldn't make a bit of difference, because the main thing is the time element. So it's not the money, and so it wouldn't make a bit of difference to me.
What do you say to Wayne Lukas and others that say the season doesn't stop in September?
Well, they're probably right on that. I mean, they probably are right, but any horse that is going to beat him for the 3-year-old honor would have to win his next 2 or 3 starts, and I just don't know who that would be.
Tabasco Cat?
Well, he's the only possibility, really.
And Tabasco Cat, I suppose it's an outside chance that he could be 3-year-old champion and Horse of the Year. It would take 2 big efforts, though, in his last 2 races.
I would think it would, yes. And, you know, we beat him convincingly. It would be in a very outside chance, I think.
Do you think if he wins the Gold Cup and the Breeders' Cup Classic, beating older horses and wins convincingly, he could get the vote?
Oh, yes, absolutely, sure. Oh, yes, he's going to get a lot of votes.
But you did beat him convincingly in the Travers.
Yes, we did. Rabbit and all.
Jimmy, assuming he runs as well in 1995 as you expect, would you then go to the Breeders' Cup Classic?
Absolutely. That'd be one of our main goals. If he runs as good next summer and stays healthy and sound and everything else, why, we certainly would point for the Breeders' Cup, yes.
So oblivious to the controversy, Holy Bull looking forward to some rest and old-fashioned therapy before embarking on that ambitious 4-year-old campaign that theoretically would wind up in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Meanwhile, Tabasco Cat, even Jimmy Kroll admits a win here today and a win at the Breeders' Cup would get him a lot of support for champion 3-year-old and Horse of the Year, but he can't afford to stub his toe. He needs to win the Gold Cup, beating the older horses and his 3-year-old rival Go for Gin today. The Jockey Club Gold Cup still to come from Belmont Park. We'll return after these messages from your local station. Welcome back to Belmont Park. As we await the Jockey Club Gold Cup, let's recheck the odds. Flag down at 7-1. Pistols and Roses a long shot. Go for Gin 4-1 now. Colonial Affair drawing some support at 5-1. Tabasco Cat 3-1. Devil is Due continues to rule as a lukewarm favorite at 2-1. And KISSIN is 8-1. Let's go to the paddock. Bob Newmeyer with Go for Gin's trainer, Nick Zito.
New York Bay. Your home grounds. You just gave your instructions to jockey Chris McCarron. What were they?
Well, just go to the front, Tommy, and prove your position, Bobby. I'm sorry.
Go to the front, so there's no question that you're the controlling speed of this race. You want to go to the front, presumably slow down the fractions as pokey as Chris can make them, and take your turn it for home.
Well, I don't know how pokey. I just want him to be in front and just let it fly and give him his head. That's the way he likes to run, Bobby, and hopefully he'll be okay. He likes to run free, and that's what they.
You have a fresh third off a layoff. Seems to be in prime. No today. No excuses, I assume.
No excuses. You know, you always want the track to be lightning fast, but you can't have your cake and eat it. And as long as my horse runs free, I think we're going to be. All right, America's going to be okay, because when a dirt winner wins, all of America's happy.
There he is, Nick Zito, the pride of New York, New York. We're going to chat with Wayne Lukas about Tabasco Cat's chances when Wayne saddles is finished saddling his horse, who's a bit of a handful here in the paddock. And we'll chat with Wayne in a couple of minutes, but right now, let's go back to Tom.
All right, Bob. Nick Zito had a little stint as a racing commentator this summer, so he knows what it's all about. And there is Tabasco Cat with Wayne Lukas, and as Bob said, and as we observed earlier, Tabasco Cat was a handful in the paddock as they tried to get him saddled up, tacked up, and ready to come to the racetrack. And Pat Day, who's been the hot jockey today, Wayne Lukas, the hot trainer, hoping to repeat their success in this final race, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Well, Wayne Lukas will probably say to Pat Day, this will be a good race to sort of stalk the pace. He can stalk Go for Gin, who's expected to be the early pace setter, and That's kind of the way they ran the Belmont Stakes here, which Tabasco Cat won over Go for Gin. Go for Gin with the lead, Tabasco Cat stalking, and I imagine that'll be the game plan again here today. So one thing we do know for sure, Tabasco Cat feels good. The way he's jumping around in the paddock, he's ready to go. Mike Battaglia, I know you're down trackside, and you're one of the best I know at analyzing before a race how it should be run. Do you see Go for Gin and maybe Pistols and Roses going to the front?
Yeah, I got to see Go for Gin going right out there, but I don't think Day's going to let him go. I thought Tabasco Cat ran a huge race at Turfway on the lead. I don't think he wants to be in front, but I think he's going to stalk the pace. I think he's going to be right off of Go for Gin, and as you said, this horse is really feeling great in the paddock. He just looks full of himself. Look at him kicking and bucking, and I think you're going to see a big race out of Tabasco Cat today, Tom.
Well, Mike, you did see Tabasco Cat win the Kentucky Cup Classic after he had been dusted in the Travers by Holy Bull, and I know from talking to you, you were impressed with his race in Kentucky.
I was very impressed, and I got to tell you that he looks 10 times better today than he looked coming on the track at Turfway, so I really think he's going to run another big one.
And Jockey Pat Day grabbing a handful of mane in order to hang on to the bucking Tabasco Cat as they make their turn in the walking ring here at Belmont Park. So the horses will soon be making their way onto the track. And Bob Newmeyer, do you have a quick comment from Wayne Lukas?
Well, Wayne, your horse is bucking and squealing. You said he was a handful to saddle. Is he okay for this race?
Yeah, he's not a bit hot or anything. He's just feeling good, and that's what we want him. We've spent a lot of money to get him this way.
All right, if you win this race today, if you win the Breeders' Cup Classic, does Tabasco Cat deserve to be Horse of the Year, plain and simple?
Well, I think if he does that with the light of the Belmont and the Preakness in those two races, I think he'll have the best race season of any horse in America. I don't have a vote. We're just trying to make the most of the last of it here. We're going to try to finish up and just say that we have the best horse in America, and if they vote that way, fine.
But what do you say to those people who support Holy Bull that say, hey, Wayne, we dusted you in the Travers. What's your excuse?
Well, I think we dusted him in the Kentucky Derby. People don't remember back to May. If I recall, Holy Bull had a subpar race too. I think any horse has that. I'm a Holy Bull fan. I like him. I think he's great for the game. I think he's well managed, and Jimmy Kroll's done a beautiful job with him. However, I think we've got a very, very good horse too, and I don't think you can downplay some of these races that are late in the fall.
People have chronicled your career. It's been up and down. Everybody knows that. But I sense smoke coming off this jacket. You're red hot. You've won 2 races already today. Is this harkening back to the halcyon days of Wayne Lukas in the sport of thoroughbred racing?
Well, we've been up more than we've been down. We might have had a 12-month run there where it was a little shaky, but it's coming back, and we're real happy to have these good horses back in the barn. And these are tough races to win, Bob. There are no easy spots from here on out, so we just hope that this one comes together too.
All right, Wayne Lukas will saddle Tabasco Cat, hopes to win this race, hopes to have a shot at the Horse of the Year. Tom?
All right, Bob. Horses making their way to the track. Here's the call to the post. And you did note that Lukas had the red jacket on. He has been hot today, and he presents a strong case. Can you imagine winning the Preakness, the Belmont, the Gold Cup, and the Breeders' Cup Classic and not being Horse of the Year? Here's the field for the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Number 1 is Flagged Down, French-trained colt. He's on the dirt for the first time today. Cash Asmussen on his back. Remember, he won with Tikkanen earlier today in the Turf Classic. He's made 1 U.S. start. That was the second in the Man of War on the grass. 2 horses, Pistols and Roses. Richard Migliori, his 3rd different jockey this year. Horses earned $1,600,000, but he's been out of the money his last 6 in a row. Might show some speed today, though, with Go for Gin on the front. The 3 horse is Go for Gin. He's the Kentucky Derby winner. Rarely throws in a bad race, though he hasn't won since the Kentucky Derby. He has the speed to make the lead. We expect him to do that, and that's a good selling point. Remember, they'll start this race 1.25 miles on the turn. Number 4 is Colonial Affair, who beat Devil Is Due in the Whitney Handicap at Saratoga. Miner's Mark, you'll remember, beat him a nose in the Gold Cup last year. The 93 Belmont Stakes winner does like this track, does like this distance. Number 5, Jacksonport, would seem to be overmatched here. 1 win this year, 23 starts against lesser company. Number 6 is Tabasco Cat. Pat Day astride him in every race this year. His 5 wins topped the field during 1994. Versatile, probably stalked the pace. Wearing David Reynolds colors today. Reynolds and W.T. Young are the owners. They alternate which colors Tabasco Cat wears. 7 is Devil Is Due. He really was America's horse for a while. The IRS attached his earnings in a hidden ownership dispute. A court order prevents that at the moment. But here's what I like. When the tax man came in the barn at Saratoga, Devil Is Due tried to bite him. Wouldn't we all like to bite the tax man instead of the other way around? He's the best older dirt horse in America. He could be very dangerous today. Number 8, West by West, scratched. And number 9, KISSIN was third in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year, but he's winless in 7 outings this year and in the tough outside post position today, though he did have an impressive work earlier this week in races without his usual dose of Lasix, which is prohibited in New York racing. So we await the $750,000 Jockey Club Gold Cup. In the meantime, let's go to Hannah Storm in our NBC Update studio. Hannah? Back at Belmont Park for the Gold Cup, Go for Gin and Colonial Affair currently at 5-1. The favorite continues to be Devil His Due, now at 3-2, with Tabasco Cat at 5-2. Well, let's go to our handicappers. Bob and Mike were off target in the Champagne. What about this one?
Thanks, nice Tom. Guy.
Yeah, he really is.
Nice guy. Anyway, Mike, obviously, for Tabasco Cat, he has to win the race if he harbors any chance at Horse of the Year. Do you like him today?
Yes, I do. I really like his chances today. I thought he looked great in the paddock. Lukas is hot. You've already pointed that out. Pat Day's hot. And I love this horse's race at Turfway Park last time out. He won on a track that he wasn't all that crazy about. It was wet that day. 2 for 3 at Belmont. He's getting weight from the older horses. I think he can win it. Yes, I like him.
Well, the older horses, Colonial Affair and Devil Is Due, are tough, hardy campaigners. They've been through the wars, particularly here at Belmont Park. But I'm going to opt for the other 3-year-old in this race. Go for Gin, the Derby winner, and I'll tell you why. I think he's the controlling speed of the race with Chris McCarron. I think he'll go to the lead, and he'll take him as far as he can go. Whether it'll be as far as he did at Churchill Downs on Derby Day, who knows? But at 5-1, he's a square price. I'll take a shot at Go for Gin. Let's go back to Tom.
Bob, Greg McCarron, has Tabasco Cat settled down any?
He finally has, Tom. I'll tell you, when he galloped off in the post parade, he was still bucking and kicking, but now he's all business. He's getting ready to go in the gate, and Pat's got him settled down. This is a racehorse. I'm telling you, he does exactly what a jockey wants to do. Be feeling good, and yet when it comes down time for business, he's all there.
All right, Tom. Devil Is Due, the 7-5 favorite. Tabasco Cat at 5-2. Tom Durkin with a call of the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Taking his spot in the starting gate, and as he does, the tote board reads 7-5. Stretch running KISSIN in the starting gate, and they are off in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Pistols and Roses and Go for Gin. Pistols and Roses gets ahead in front early, but McCarron looking for the lead with the Derby winner, and Go for Gin puts ahead in front, but he has company early from Pistols and Roses on the inside. Tabasco Cat right there, tracking Go for Gin right from the start. It's a length and a half back, and Devil Is Due settles in 4th on the outside, 3 lengths from the front runner. Then Flag Down saving ground in the early going. Colonial Affair is in behind horses, now reserved about 6 lengths from the front. KISSIN is second to last. Long Shot Jacksonport is the trailer. Go for Gin, and Pistols and Roses is making him work to hold the lead. The quarter goes in 23 2/5 seconds. Moving down the backstretch, Long Shot, Pistols and Roses now taking the lead. Go for Gin back running second with 6 furlongs to go. 5 lengths back, Flag Down. For the inside, running in 3rd position, Tabasco Cat. That day still patient with him. They've dropped 7 lengths off the lead. Devil Is Due to his outside now, and he's launching his bid early with 5 furlongs to go. Colonial Affair is next. He's about 6 lengths from the lead as they round the far turn. Pistols and Roses has left the Derby winner behind. Go for Gin is struggling to keep up. Pistols and Roses has a 2-length lead. Devil Is Due in the midst of his rally now. Second on the outside. Tabasco Cat is down toward the rail. Colonial Affair lengthening his stride on the far outside. And KISSIN is launching his bid, and he's coming well. They're moving toward the top of the stretch. It's still Pistols and Roses. Tabasco Cat down to his inside. Colonial Affair continues to sweep, and Devil Is Due. Colonial Affair now charging hard on the outside as they come down to mid-stretch. Tabasco Cat second toward the inside. Devil Is Due is now running 3rd. They are in the final furlong, and it is Colonial Affair leading them all down to the line. Devil Is Due, Tabasco Cat, and Colonial Affair returns to the site of his greatest victory, the Belmont Stakes, to win the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And an affectionate pat from Jose Santos, who's had a big day here. Devil Is Due was second best this afternoon. Colonial Affair He loves Belmont Park, and he got that long stride going on the turn and blew by them all in the final quarter here at Belmont today.
All right, Tom Durkin, we said Colonial Affair loves this track. He loves this distance. His two best races in his career were the Belmont Stakes here and the Jockey Club Gold Cup last year when Miner's Mark just nosed him out. No noses involved today as Colonial Affair sweeps by them in the stretch to win with authority. Tabasco Cat gets through on the inside here, but it's Colonial Affair that gets to the lead and charges by them. Tabasco Cat under Day's left-hand whipping can't keep up. Devil is Due will inch ahead into the second spot, but all clear now for Colonial Affair. Jose Santos on his way to his fourth win of the afternoon. Under the hand ride now as Colonial Affair makes up for the narrow loss last year with a convincing win in the Gold Cup. Let's go down to Greg McCarron.
Yeah, Tom, I have Jose here. I understand Jose came around, but he sure got awful dirty doing it. Congratulations, Jose. You've had quite a day.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had a beautiful day today, and I tell you, this horse run a tremendous race. He knows what's the Jockey Gold Cup today, and he still have blood in his side from the last year when he get beat by Minor Mark, but he did it pretty easy today. He coming around the quarter very strong, and he drew out real beautiful.
Very good, Jose. Back to you, Tom.
All right, Greg, a very professional performance by the 4-year-old son of Pleasant Colony, owned by the Centennial Farms, and Scotty Schulhofer on the right, the winning trainer. Colonial Affair in the Gold Cup. We'll be back. Yes, thumbs up.
This has been NBC's Sports World, and today it was brought to you by the VO5 Hot Oil Treatment. Once a week does so much. By Buick and your local Buick dealers. Remember Buick, the new symbol for quality in America. By the new $1 Breeders' Cup Pick 7. Play it on November 5th. And by Moet Champagne, where celebration is born.
Welcome back to Belmont Park, where Colonial Affair has won the prestigious Jockey Club Gold Cup, paying $12.80, $5.60, and $3.60, beating Devil is Due and Flag Down. Jose Santos aboard the winner. A big afternoon for Santos, capped off by his win in the Gold Cup. The salute from the whip and the toss to the valet. And, of course, the win by Colonial Affair effectively ending the championship hopes of Tabasco Cat. Let's go down trackside. Mike Battaglia has Pat Day.
Okay, Pat, you and Wayne had a big afternoon today. You came down in the lane with Tabasco Cat. He looked to be in good position. What happened?
Well, I just didn't have much punch there when I called on him. He was a little bit, extremely sharp in the paddock in the post parade, bucking and squealing, and was a little bit rank early. But he settled in third, in a good spot up around, down the backside and into the turn. Got through on the fence on the inside of Pistols and Roses, and really thought right here, as you can see on the rerun here, yeah. I thought I was in good shape, and when I put the hammer down, we just didn't have the punch that I thought we would have had or should have. But he hung in there and kept fighting, kept trying, and certainly we'll have another chance. It wasn't a disappointing effort, but it wasn't what we was wanting. Of course, the other two horses ran very big, but we were certainly wanting to get this one.
You think being down on the inside had anything to do with it? Did he not like being inside of horses like that?
No, that really didn't have anything to do with it. He run very courageous, very game down in there. He run until he just ran out of gas. And we just didn't have the punch in the lane that I was hoping for, that I thought we had when we come into the stretch. But being inside, being in behind, getting the dirt in his face, none of that had anything to do with it, I don't believe.
Okay, well, we can still look forward to Tabasco Cat in the Breeders' Cup, maybe hooking up with Colonial Affair again. Back to you, Tom.
All right, Mike Battaglia, and we do look forward to the Breeders' Cup, the Breeders' Cup Classic in this case. A month from today at Churchill Downs, Jose Santos will be aboard Colonial Affair, and he will be a factor. Certainly will vie for some favoritism off his win today over a fine field here in the Gold Cup. So it was a day filled with upsets and dominating performances. Lure went down in a narrow defeat, but is expected to come back strong in the Breeders' Cup. Flanders, an overwhelming victory, and Colonial Affair capping it all off with the win after losing by a nose to Miners Mark in the Gold Cup last year. Very convincing under Santos this afternoon. Big day for Lukas, W.T. Young, big day for Santos, and an excellent afternoon of racing as we get ready for the Breeders' Cup. Let's go to Marianne Grabavoy.
Thanks, Tom. I'm here with Jose Santos, the winning jock, and Don Little Jr. and Don Little Sr., the owners. And on my left, Mr. Denny Phipps, the chairman of the Jockey Club, to make the presentation.
Thank you, Don. Great horse, great race. Congratulations. Terrific.
Well, it was a great day for us here, I'll tell you that. It was a super day, and all the partners are here. They deserve the credit, as well as Scotty and Jose and Steve. It was terrific, so we had a great day.
Beaten by a nose in this race last year. Sweet vindication this time around?
Sweet revenge.
On to the Breeders' Cup Classic. You're the favorite?
Well, I don't know about that, but we're going to try and go there. Anything, good Lord willing.
Congratulations. Back to Tom Hammond.
All right, Marianne. So, as it turned out, there was no storybook ending for Tabasco Cat and Wayne Lukas. Jeff Lucas still recovering from his injuries, suffered last December when he was run over by Tabasco Cat. Back working again. Our best wishes to him, and I know he and Tabasco Cat will still have fine days ahead, and we are certainly glad that Jeff Lucas is back and getting better as each day passes. Well, we'll turn our attention back to football tomorrow. Doubleheader day here on NBC tomorrow afternoon, starting with NFL Live at 12:30 Eastern Time. Most of you will see a great matchup at the top of the AFC East. Marino and the high-scoring Dolphins visiting Kelly and the Buffalo Bills. Others will see the Jets host Marshall Faulk and the Colts. Game 2 of the doubleheader. Most of you see a battle for supremacy in the AFC West. The NFL's only undefeated team, the San Diego Chargers, knocking heads with Joe Montana and the Kansas City Chiefs. Some of you will see the Raiders take on New England. Check your local listings. Football tomorrow on NBC. Well, the day began with the upset of Lure by a nose at 1-5. Wayne Lukas and Shug McGahee, two of the primary factors in today's trainers battle. Timber Country, the 2-year-old, won the Moet Champagne Stakes for Team Lukas. But Tabasco Cat, his hope in the Gold Cup, could not get it done. Flint, Scotty Schulhofer celebrating the victory of Colonial Affair in the biggest race of the day, the $750,000 Jockey Club Gold Cup. We invite you to join us 4 weeks today for the Breeders' Cup from Churchill Downs. Tom Hammond saying so long.
In a new world, a new standard of excellence, NBC Sports.